So, I have a story to read for you. It's called A Real Trini Christmas. So, this story is about a little boy named Johnny who lived far, far away in America. So, it's about a Christmas story, and Johnny, for the first time, got a true Trini Christmas experience. So, how many of y'all love Christmas? All right, so do you all know that in Trinidad and Tobago, we celebrate Christmas like no other. We have our own style of celebrating Christmas, and it's different from everywhere else in the world. So this story is about Johnny, and Johnny was about your age, and he lived with his parents in an apartment in a tall building in a big city called New York, with millions of people all the way in America. Johnny was an only child, and he did not have any friends who lived in his building. So when the school term was over just before Christmas, he was so very lonely. But at least Johnny had his mom and his dad for company. That year, the mood in his house was hustle and bustle. Just 5 days before Christmas, his parents seemed very busy, and very hurriedly, they took him to the grocery store, they took him to the cloth store, and then they took him to the mall to buy a big red winter coat and black snow boots. But the big red coat and the black snow boots were not any of their sizes. It couldn't fit any of them. So Johnny asked, "Mommy, who is this coat and boots for?" "Well," his mother responded, "it turns out that Granny Beatrice is coming all the way from Trinidad to spend Christmas with us." Now, Johnny had never met Granny Beatrice in person. He had only spoken to her on the phone a few times. And on top of that, he had heard so many stories from his dad about how strict Granny was when he was growing up. So when they got to the airport, Johnny was very nervous. Talk about pressure. Johnny stood up straight with his shirt tucked in, just to make a good first impression on his granny. But when Granny Beatrice saw Johnny, if you see, she pushed past everybody in the airport. She pushed past Johnny's parents just to give Johnny a big hug. The whole airport could hear her saying, "Oh losh, look how big and handsome my grandchild gets." Now, Granny Beatrice wasn't used to the cold winter weather that was in New York, in America at the time. So she quickly put on the red winter coat and the black winter boots that Johnny's parents had just bought for her. Granny also had a big bag that was suspiciously very heavy. She looked like she was walking around with a big bag like Santa Claus. Johnny couldn't help but wonder what she had brought with her all the way from Trinidad. Johnny's dad was curious too, and like a little boy, he kept asking Granny Beatrice, "Mommy, you bring the things? You bring the things?" But Granny Beatrice just said to Daddy, "Boy, cool yourself now, boy." When they got back to the apartment, everyone gathered around Granny, begging her to open up a big bag. But Granny demanded, "I not opening anything until this house is spotless." So all the clean dishes were cleaned again, all the living room chair covers were washed again, all the floors in the house were scrubbed again, and all the walls were cleaned until they were bright again. Then and only then did Granny sit down with the family to open up her suitcase. When she opened it, The smell that came out of the suitcase was like sugar and spice and everything nice. Granny had all these kinds of red-looking juice and creamy-looking juice wrapped up in newspapers. "Johnny, you ever taste sorrel, boy?" Granny asked. Johnny couldn't wait to try it because he'd never tasted sorrel. He also learned that the two other drinks were called ginger beer and puncha creme. His mother excitedly put the drinks in the fridge one time to get nice and cold before they could drink it. Once all the big suitcase excitement was over, it was time to start Christmas cooking. There was a ham in a bowl in the sink, and Granny made Johnny wash his hands and stick these little black branches called clove and pineapple slices all over the ham. Johnny grated coconuts for sweetbread and cut up shadow benny, pimentos, olives, and a range of spices with names he couldn't even remember. Granny stood in the kitchen stuffing all kinds of mincemeats into a cornmeal dough, then wrapping them into fig leaves and tying up each with twine. Granny called this pastels. For the next few days leading up to Christmas, Johnny's family ate pastels. Pastels for breakfast, pastels for lunch, and more pastels for dinner, because Granny said, "No food cooking in this house before all the baking done on Christmas Eve." Granny baked homemade breads, sweetbreads, currants rolls, and she even made magic by taking this black gooey stuff in a large glass jar and making cake that everybody seems to enjoy. But Christmas with Granny Beatrice didn't stop there. She made the family prepare packages with baked treats, pastels, and drinks to share with all the neighbors in Johnny's building. After the packages were set, Granny pulled out an old CD player and taught the family a few Christmas songs. Some of the songs Johnny could understand, as it sounded like English with a tiny bit of Spanish, and others sounded like they were in Spanish with a tiny bit of English. Granny called it parang music. So the family walked along the tiny corridors of their high-rise building, singing parang music and distributing all the small Christmas packages to their neighbors. The neighbors loved it. And of course, Granny Beatrice made sure to invite them to the apartment on Christmas Day to get a real Trini Christmas meal. And they did just that. Johnny made so many friends that Christmas, and all the families that came by ate their bellies full and sang the popular soca parang song, "Trini Christmas is the best, is the best, is the best." And so it was that Granny Beatrice from Trinidad, with her big red coat and her big black winter boots, made sure that Johnny had the happiest, most memorable Christmas he ever had, which of course was a true Trini Christmas. The end. So, who is accustomed to that kind of cooking? You all cook on Christmas? Yes? Do you help your mummies cook and your daddies cook? You?
I love cooking.
You love cooking? What do you cook?
I like cooking pastels.
Oh, you like making pastels?
I like my friends coming to my house for breakfast, and I come at their house for lunch.
Ah, so you eat a lot at Christmas. Yes? And what do you like?
I have cream raspberry.
Very good. So that is our Christmas that we celebrate here in Trinidad and Tobago. and it is our culture, and it is our Christmas. And I love it more than any other Christmas in the whole wide world. Thank you.
Oh, how I wish I were a child again. Red poinsettias keep reminding me Christmas time is just around the bend. Soon the feeling will be heavenly. The kids anticipate vacation time or Christmas.